Hey everyone, stop what you are doing right now, because what just happened on Wall Street is the clearest signal yet that New York City's financial dominance is not just being challenged, it is being systematically dismantled, $1 trillion firm at a time. Here is the scene. A company manages $1 trillion in assets. 1 trillion. To put that in perspective, that is more than the entire GDP of the Netherlands. More than the combined annual output of every business, every worker, every farm, and every factory in a country of 17 million people. And this company has been headquartered in New York City since the day it was founded. And then one day, the executives sit down, look at what New York has become, look at what Texas and Florida are offering, and announce they are actively searching for a new home, not threatening to leave, not warning they might leave, scouting locations, running numbers, making the decision. I am talking about Apollo Global Management, one of the most powerful private equity and alternative asset management firms on the planet. A firm that controls $1 trillion in assets across private equity, credit, and real assets. A firm whose decisions move markets, fund companies, and employ thousands of the most highly compensated financial professionals in the world. And Apollo just told New York City that it is no longer automatically the answer. And here is what makes this so devastating. Apollo is not a startup making a bold bet on a new city. Apollo was founded in New York. It grew up in New York. It built its trillion-dollar empire in New York. For a firm like Apollo to be looking at Texas and Florida as potential new homes, something fundamental has broken in the relationship between New York City and the financial industry that built it. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why Apollo is leaving, what it means for New York, and why this is not just another corporate reshuffling story. This is a verdict. Hit that subscribe button right now because this one goes extremely deep. Let us get into it. Let us start with Apollo because most people outside of finance do not fully appreciate what this firm actually represents. Apollo Global Management was founded in 1990 by Leon Black, Josh Harris, and Mark Rowan. It started as a private equity firm, buying companies, improving them, and selling them for a profit. Over 3 decades, it evolved into one of the most sophisticated and diversified alternative asset managers in the world. Today, Apollo manages approximately $1 trillion across private equity, credit strategies, real assets, and insurance. It is one of only a handful of firms that has crossed the trillion-dollar threshold in assets under management. Its clients include pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, university endowments, and insurance companies from around the world. Apollo's headquarters are in New York City. Its leadership, its deal teams, its investor relations operation, its entire institutional identity has been built in and around Manhattan. When Apollo says it is evaluating Texas and Florida as potential locations for a second major headquarters, it is not a small firm with nothing to lose taking a calculated risk on a cheaper city. It is one of the most established, most prestigious financial institutions in America, telling New York that the math no longer works. Now let us talk about why. Because the reasons Apollo is looking south are the same reasons JPMorgan has moved more employees to Texas than New York. The same reasons Goldman Sachs is building its largest non-Manhattan operation in Dallas. The same reasons Citadel moved its entire global headquarters from Chicago to Miami and is now reconsidering $6 billion in Manhattan real estate investment. Start with the tax structure. New York State has the highest combined city and state income tax burden in the United States. For a managing partner at Apollo earning several $millions per year, the difference between living and working in New York versus Florida or Texas is not marginal. It is millions of dollars annually. Florida has 0 state income tax. Texas has 0 state income tax. New York State's top marginal rate is nearly 10%. Add New York City's income tax on top of that, and the combined burden approaches 14% on top of federal taxes. For the kind of compensation packages that exist at firms like Apollo, that differential compounds into life-changing amounts of money every single year. But this is not just about what partners pay personally, it is about what the firm pays to operate in New York. Commercial real estate in Manhattan's financial district runs over $60 per square foot. In Dallas, comparable space runs around $32. In Miami, rates are competitive, and the infrastructure being built specifically to attract financial firms is rapidly improving. For a firm with thousands of employees and substantial office footprint, that real estate differential translates into tens of millions of dollars in annual savings. And then there is the regulatory and political environment. Apollo operates at the intersection of financial markets and corporate governance. The decisions its executives make are complex, high stakes, and require clarity about the legal and regulatory framework they are operating within. New York has always provided that clarity. It has 2 centuries of financial law, specialized commercial courts, and institutional expertise that no other American city can match. But something has changed. The political environment in New York City has shifted in ways that create genuine uncertainty for financial firms. Mayor Mamdani's pied-à-terre tax targets the exact demographic of senior financial executives who maintain New York residences. His government-run grocery stores signal a willingness to use public resources to compete directly with private enterprise. His rhetoric about taxing the rich is not abstract policy debate. It is a direct signal to the financial industry about how the city's political leadership views them. And here is what financial firms understand better than anyone. Political risk is real risk. When a city government signals that it views your industry as a problem to be managed rather than an asset to be cultivated, the rational response is to start planning your exit before that political risk becomes financial reality. Apollo is not leaving because New York has already destroyed its business model. Apollo is leaving because it can see the trajectory. Now let us talk about what Texas and Florida are actually offering, because this is not just about escaping New York. It is about running towards something genuinely better. Texas has no state income tax, no corporate income tax, no capital gains tax. The Texas legislature has embedded these prohibitions in the state constitution, not just as policies that could be reversed by a future legislature, but as constitutional protections that require a supermajority and a statewide referendum to change. For a firm like Apollo that needs to make decade-long commitments to employees, clients, and counterparties, that constitutional certainty is extraordinarily valuable. Dallas and Houston have built world-class financial infrastructure over the past decade. JPMorgan has consolidated its Texas operations into a massive campus in Plano. Goldman Sachs is building an 800,000 square foot campus in Dallas. Citadel has moved to Miami. The presence of these institutions creates a talent ecosystem, analysts, associates, compliance professionals, legal counsel, that makes it feasible for additional firms to establish major operations in these cities without sacrificing access to top talent. Florida adds a different dimension. Miami has positioned itself as the financial capital of the Western Hemisphere, a hub connecting North American capital with Latin American growth markets. For a firm like Apollo that manages global assets and needs to maintain relationships with investors and portfolio companies across the Americas, Miami's geographic positioning and cultural fluency is genuinely valuable. And Governor Ron DeSantis has spent years actively courting financial firms with a combination of zero income tax, streamlined regulation, and a political environment that treats business as an asset rather than an adversary. Here is the number that ties everything together. Over the past decade, the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area has seen financial sector employment grow by 40%. The region now employs over 386,000 people in financial services. That growth did not happen by accident. It happened because Texas made deliberate structural decisions to compete for exactly the kind of firms that Apollo represents. New York's financial sector, by contrast, has seen its share of total U.S. financial employment decline from 33% in 1990 to under 18% today. That is not a blip. That is a structural shift that has been accelerating for years and is now reaching a tipping point. Here is the part that should concern every New Yorker, regardless of their politics. Apollo's trillion-dollar AUM does not just represent investment capital. It represents the fee income that Apollo generates, the taxes that Apollo and its employees pay, the restaurants and dry cleaners and apartment landlords that depend on those employees spending money in New York. When Apollo moves its second headquarters to Texas or Florida, it does not just take its own payroll out of New York. It takes a piece of the entire ecosystem that has grown around firms like Apollo. And here is the compounding effect that makes this so dangerous. JPMorgan moved more employees to Texas than New York. Goldman Sachs is building its biggest non-Manhattan hub in Dallas. Citadel went to Miami. Now Apollo is scouting Texas and Florida. Each departure makes the next departure easier because the talent pools, the legal infrastructure, and the social networks that financial professionals depend on are being rebuilt in Dallas and Miami in real time. The gravitational pull that has kept Wall Street in New York for 200 years is getting weaker with every firm that leaves and stronger in Texas and Florida with every firm that arrives. Mayor Mamdani will continue proposing taxes on the wealthy. Governor Hochul will continue expressing concern about corporate departures while supporting the policies that drive them. And the trillion-dollar firms will continue doing what trillion-dollar firms do, following the math to wherever the math is best. Here is the bottom line. Apollo Global Management manages $1 trillion. It was founded in New York. It built its empire in New York. And it is now telling New York that Texas and Florida are worth a serious look. Not because New York stopped being a great city, but because New York stopped competing for the firms that pay its bills. JPMorgan went to Texas, Goldman went to Texas, Citadel went to Miami, and now Apollo is looking at both. At some point, this stops being a trend and starts being a verdict. And the verdict on New York City's financial future is being written right now, $1 trillion firm at a time. I want to hear from you. Do you think New York can reverse this trend, or has the tipping point already been passed? Drop it in the comments because this is one of the most important economic stories in America right now. If this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the stories that are actually moving markets and affecting your future. Hit the notification bell so you do not miss what is coming next. Stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop following the money. See you in the next one.